Hey, this is Alex with the Unbiased Trailblazer podcast. Make sure you follow us on Twitter at Unbiased Blazers. There's a link in our bio for our Discord server where you can join in on the discussions, give us takes, give us comments, or simply just join in on a podcast. Also, if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please leave a review. We'd love to hear what your thoughts are on this podcast. Now, let's get to the show. And as always, Rip City, baby.
3, 2, 1,
0.
0.
Liftoff and the clock has started.
What is up, Rip City? This is episode 30 of the Unbiased Trailblazers. This is Alex, and I've got Fawad here with me. Mike couldn't make it tonight, so it's just me and Fawad chilling. How you doing, Fawad?
Good. I'm chilling. My first relatively free day in probably a month.
Yeah, I got too used to all the holidays off for work. I'm not used to this full week back thing, so
I was working during the holidays too.
I'm not used to having to work all of a sudden. Anyways, we are going to do this podcast here real quick. As we are doing it, the Brooklyn Nets and the Blazers are playing. And as of right now, we are up by 4 with 10 minutes in the second quarter. Real quickly, a lot of COVID injuries, different things. I know James Harden's not playing. I believe Kevin Durant's not playing. Tell me if I'm wrong, but I don't believe he's playing. And then obviously for us, we don't have Lillard. We don't have CJ still out. And we'll get to that in a little bit. But it's been an interesting game. To start off, what we want to talk about is since Damian Lillard has been out, obviously we've had Simon step up and play in those minutes for him and play that position. So with that being said, our very first topic, actually, it looks like Kevin Durant's about to check in, so I think he is playing. But anyways, Simons has been playing especially these last couple games, unbelievably well. He's actually been playing pretty well all season, but like these last couple games, he's been on another level. So Fawad, I want you to just kind of like sum up everything that's happened with Simons these last couple games. How you feel about it?
He's been everything we've wanted him to be over the last couple of years. He's creating his own shot. He's actually playing like a point guard. He had 7 assists 3 games in a row, I think, and then last game I think he had like 5 or 6 as well. So he's made the jump that I think we all knew that he could score even like in his first, second, third year, but most of us didn't think he had that playmaking potential, and he's showing that. And it's not it comes naturally to him. Like he finds the open man, and I'm so impressed with him in that regard. I didn't think he would actually make that jump. I know I saw a couple other people were hesitant about that too. So I'm happy to see that he's becoming pretty much a complete player on the offensive end. He can score from 3, he can get inside. I wish he would drive more, but it's enough.
I agree.
I feel like whenever he does drive, he almost always scores or gets fouled, but he just doesn't do it enough.
That to me, that's what he's improved on the most is his ability to finish at the rim.
Yeah, because he's so smooth and so quick. Like most players can't even guard him.
Yeah, let me real quick. Let me give the stats real quick. January 3rd, he played Atlanta, or we played, not he. I mean, pretty much he played, but he had 43 points, 13 of 21. He hit 9 of 16 threes and had 7 assists. And that game was insane because Trae Young went crazy too. He had like 50 something, and we thankfully pulled off the win. But 43 points, that's insane. The next game, he had 28 and 7, so another 7 assist game, 28 points. He shot pretty well, 9 of 17 and 5 of 10 from 3. The game against Cleveland, it was kind of a step back. He had 14 points, 7 assists again, and then last night we played against Sacramento. He had 31 points and 6 assists. And honestly, he probably would have had more assists, but Nurk was dealing the ball. He almost had a triple-double. So a lot of those assists went to Nurkic instead. But do you have anything else you want to add on, Ant?
Yeah, just like more stats, I guess. But didn't he score like 15 straight at the end of the game? Like sometime in the fourth yesterday, or was it yesterday? Yeah.
Yeah, he at one point he just went off.
Yeah, he was hitting everything. But yeah, so over these last 4 games, he's averaging 29 on 54% from the field, 51% from three, and 100% from the free throw line, and 6.8 assists. That's crazy. It is only 4 games, but like that's when he got put into the starting lineup. Like that's when Dame stopped playing. But even if you include his other starts, he had I think 3 more earlier in the season. The numbers are still pretty good. Like I think it's over 20, and the efficiency is maintained. So I feel like it's relatively sustainable. He's not going to drop 40 or 30 every game, but mid 20s, I think he can consistently do that if he's um, put in that opportunity for the rest of the season, which we know is a possibility.
Yeah, and I mean, there's always a positive with a negative. I believe, and I could be wrong, so if anybody's listening or if you know Fawad, tell me, but I believe statistically he's one of the worst defensive players in the NBA, if not the worst statistically wise. So there is a trade-off.
I remember hearing in his, I think it was his second year, he was the worst, like he was statistically the worst defender. I don't know if he's gotten better on that end. Um, my eye test says he's at least gotten better since his second year, even if he's not like that good now. But my other thing is I don't like defensive advanced stats that much. I feel like they're way too dependent on who you're playing with, and everyone knows he's not playing with good defenders. Portland has maybe like one good defender on the entire team. So, like if he was the exact same player but on another team like a Milwaukee or Toronto, um, or whatever the good defensive teams in the league are this season, I think his statistically he would like probably be average or something, just based on who he's playing with. So I don't put a lot of weight into advanced stats defensively.
Well, and let's be honest here. These last 4 games, he's essentially stepped in and has been Damian Lillard. And we have no issue with Lillard being so offensively, gifted and then defense not really being there as much. So the stats that he's getting these last couple games is what we normally see from Lillard. So it's like that trade-off, if you're not as well off on defense, you have to bring it on offense, and he is bringing it on offense, and we obviously know, he can bring it at any time. So I don't think it hurts us as much. I think if it was more of like a mid, he was a little bit above average on offense and still was one of the worst defenders on defense, that's where you have an issue. But with the offense he's bringing us all year, essentially, I mean, even when he's not starting, he still comes in, and I think he was averaging like 12 points a game off the bench. So you can't really ask for a lot more than that.
Also, just to clarify, for the like defensive advanced stats, I think it's fair to compare with like your our own team. I think that like it's relatively it's like an even playing field. Like they're all playing with the same teammates, so I think those stats are fine to compare. And I remember earlier in the season, maybe it was like 20 games in, I think he was like second or third in defensive rating after Nurk and maybe someone else. I don't know if he's still that high or if he's dropped lower, but yeah. So I think on our team he's at least above average. And again, I don't think it's that fair to compare across the league because different systems, different players.
And you're gonna have the trade-off. He's a little bit smaller in size, height, and weight. Too. And he's young, so he's got the athleticism to contest shots and affect shots. It's just doing it consistently. And honestly, do we need him to be a stellar defensive player?
No, we don't.
Not necessarily. If that's who we're turning to for stellar defense, then we're already in trouble. So I've been more than happy with what I've seen from him. We started off the year saying, we didn't want to lose either of them. And then we were like, well, if one of them has to go, I think I'd rather keep Little and, have Simons. And then Simons comes out here. Not that Little's not playing good, but Simons comes out here and just puts on show after show and is like, this is why he's worth having. And like we've said before, he's so young. He's been in the league for 4 years now, and yet he's 23, I think, now. So it's just...
He's 22.
It's 22. It's just crazy.
I don't know. His birthday's in January, I'm pretty sure. So maybe he is 23.
Okay. Yeah, so it's just crazy. So with that being said, let's segue into this. We had Lucas ask a couple questions. We're gonna kind of address a couple of them.
Sorry to cut you
You
off.
got something? Go for it.
I just remembered a topic I wanted to talk about earlier. Like it's still related to Simons though. So, how much do you think he'll get? He'll get in the off season. Like, how much are you willing to pay him?
That's a tough question.
We obviously put in a lot of money into guards, and people don't want to do that. So let's assume CJ is traded. So it's Dame, Simons, and Norm. How much do you think is a fair amount to be putting into another 6'3" guard?
Well, let's see. Norm's getting, what did we say, 15 million a year?
He's getting 18 on average. I think it's 15 this year.
Oh, is it 18? Okay.
And then it'll go
18
up.
on average.
So next year's probably 16 or 17.
For what he brings us and what we would need, I would be okay with somewhere in like the 9-10.
I don't think he'll go that low at all.
But that's what I don't think he would either. To me, 10, 11 is probably good, but I have a feeling he's going to get some pretty big offers.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping to get before the season started if they agreed to an extension. And I don't think they were even close. So I think 9 or 10 is what he would have gotten before. I'm hoping it hasn't gone too much higher, and I'm kind of in like the 12 to 13 range. That like for maybe like 3 years, that's probably what I'm willing to pay him.
Well, let's think. Actually, let me backtrack a little bit. I guess do you think we're gonna re-sign Nurkic?
I personally do, but I know a lot of people don't. So I'm kind of getting swayed by how many people think we're not going to keep him.
Because if we trade CJ, and if we're trading CJ to get another player of equal talent / value, that contract's gonna probably be a pretty high one, right?
Yeah,
like a Jeremy Grant contract or a Ben Simmons contract or something like that. You're going to have to pay for that guy. So then that's taking less money off of Simons. So then it comes down to, do you want Nurkic still? Do you want Simons still? Because I think we probably could get Nurkic cheaper than we could get Simons.
I was just about to say that. I agree with that. And also Nurk is like fit-wise, he's more important. We need a defensive center more than we need a third guard.
It's a real tough position to be in.
I don't envy Joe Cronin.
And maybe they decide we trade CJ for some picks and some expiring contracts, and then there's extra money now to do Simons and to maybe still try to get Nurkic and then kind of build off of that and trade those picks for players. I mean, it's easier, in my opinion, it's easier to trade picks than it is to trade players. A lot, especially around draft time. Once the draft rolls around, it's a lot easier to trade your picks than it is to trade players. But I don't know. I have a feeling it's going to be like an Alan Crabb incident where he's going to get offered a lot of money by someone, and I don't know if we can afford to match it.
Right. I was just about to say that. So at the deadline, do you risk waiting for an Alan Crabb situation to happen, or do you just trade him and try to maximize his value now, rather than risk him walking away?
Nothing. I think if he keeps playing the way he's playing, our best bet, and we're going to kind of get into this a little bit later, if we truly are going to just embrace the tank and go that route, I think our best bet is to move on from him. If our goal in the next year or two is to try to win a championship with Lillard, Simons is a valuable piece that we could trade away. I would most certainly love to keep him, and I have no issue keeping him, but I think if we really are going the tank route and he keeps playing the way he's doing, his value is just going to keep going up. And like we just said, it might end up being an Alan Crabb issue where we can't afford to match that contract and, we lose him anyways.
I hate to say it, but I think I'm on the same page as you, even though I love Simons, and I would be happy to build around him and Nas if it comes to that. But if we're going, if Dame is staying like beyond the season, I think trading Ant is probably the best way to build a contender. You would have the most
Because
value.
Yeah, and I don't necessarily think our sixth man or whoever comes off the bench needs to be a point guard that can score. I think the shooting guard, a small forward, anybody. It doesn't. We rely on Simons to come in and score off the bench when Lillard's in and CJ's in. We don't necessarily need the point guard to be the one that scores. So, yes, I would love to have him, and he's so young. But I think if the ultimate goal is to win a championship, I don't think we're going to be able to re-sign him unless he decides he wants to take a pay cut, which I highly doubt he would want to, and I wouldn't blame him for it.
I wouldn't be surprised if he took like a small pay cut. Like maybe.
But how small? How small is small?
2 million. That could be significant.
So if it was like 14 million down to 12 million? Yeah. But what if it was like 12 million down to 10 million?
Sorry, I cut out for a second. What did you say?
Like if it was 12 million down to 10 million, that seems worse than 14 to 12.
Yeah, it does. But I would be willing to pay him 12 though. That's why.
Yeah, and I totally would be fine with 12. The problem is I have a feeling he's going to get more off. If he keeps playing the way he's playing, he's going to get more offers than 12 million.
If he keeps playing like this, his value is going to keep going up, especially if he keeps this expanded role.
Yeah, and if this season goes the way we're kind of thinking it might, where Dame ends up getting that surgery and sitting out, it's pretty much his team to run right now. So it's going to be interesting what happens. But let's kind of segue into this. Do you think his ceiling is? Do you think he can be an all-star, Ant? Do you think he can just be a very good starting point guard, or do you think there's not much left other than what we're seeing right now? What do you think? And this is a question from Lucas. So Lucas, shout out to you. We're answering a couple of his questions.
This is a tough one because I don't know. Like I think he has so much potential in him. But as a guard in I guess it won't. We don't know for sure. Like in a few years from now, but even in general, it's a guards league now. Or a lot of the best players are guards. So in any given year, there's a lot of competition. Like, what 6 guards make the All-Star game or something like that, and the 6th best guard in the league is probably like an All-NBA player right now. So
he would definitely be a coach's choice if he were to ever make it, because I don't ever see him rising up to that level of making the fans.
He's not going to be
like
a superstar.
Which unfortunately, Dame's never even done that. So if Dame hasn't done that,
Dame should have done that. I think it was like
CJ Ellaby just smoked a layup. Oh boy.
Dame should have been a starter like 2 years ago, I think. But anyways,
there's been a couple years that he's definitely deserved it, but Luka's got it over him.
Yeah, I think there were 2 years where he deserved it over Luka, and like one, I feel like it was like for sure. Like I think majority of the fan base, not just like the Blazers fan base, but NBA fans thought he deserved it. But anyways, back to Simons. I think he'll end up like in the CJ tier, where he's probably like the best player left out of the All-Star game, or best guard at least.
Yeah, I agree. I see him as a player that probably will never make an All-Star team, but has the he can be a very, very good player for whatever team he's on, whether that's with us or another NBA team, and make an impact most games consistently. So to me, I think for sure he's at least 6th man potential, but I wouldn't be surprised if he went to another team and was a starter for the way he's been playing. And we've seen flashes before in the past of him, just going crazy. It's something that he can certainly do. And with him being so young, like we say all the time, he's nothing but potential for him.
That's what
go for it.
Him being so young is partly why I have a hard time like judging his potential, because he's gonna probably keep improving for like the next 6 to 8 years. So it's so hard to tell what he's gonna be 6 to 8 years from now.
Yeah.
Most guys in their 4th season, like they probably have 3 or 4 more years left of like getting better, and then they like hit their peak. Sometimes we don't know when he's gonna peak. It could be a long time from now. So like who knows? Maybe he can be an all-star, but I wouldn't bet on it, but I wouldn't rule it out either.
Yeah, he's a very interesting case. There's not too many players that are as young as he is in the league and have been there for as long as he has. So let's move to the next one. What about Nasir Little? What do you feel? He's a little bit harder to gauge because we haven't seen as much of him. But how do you feel his ceiling or his floor is?
I think his floor, like no matter what, he'll be a good quality role player. Maybe a starter on some teams, maybe like a 6-man on other teams. But to be an all-star, I think you need to be able to reliably create your own shot. And even though it's only his like, is it his second year or third year? I think it's his third year.
I
How do I
truly
not
don't
know
know.
this? Oh my god. But anyways,
It's his second year,
okay, it is his second year. But it's his third. It's his
right?
third.
I don't know.
It's his
It's his
third.
third,
Yeah.
yeah, because this is Ellaby's second. Yep.
Sorry, I lost my train of thought. Oh, right, Nasir Little, yeah. So I feel like he doesn't have as much shot creating ability as I would like him to, even though he is getting there. Like once or twice a game, you'll see him create his own shot. He'll either drive in or pull up for a three, and he'll make it. So it's starting to get there, but I think I don't think he'll be an all-star. I think he'll be like um high-end role player, or maybe if he develops his shot creating ability enough, he'll be like a Jeremy Grant where he can create his own shot, he can play D, and he's like just a step under an all-star.
So let me give you this comparison and tell me what you think. Nasir Little, if he continues the trajectory he's doing, where he's kind of improved every year and he's gotten stronger and faster and bigger, the way I see him, kind of like you said, he's definitely a player that can be a great role player, can be, come off the bench as a 6-man. Do you think he could be kind of like a Wesley Matthews?
I think he can be better than Wesley Matthews.
Because he brings high energy.
Yeah.
He plays defense.
Mm-hmm.
He can hit open threes, and if he can, progress in that and, make it more consistently. And then, we already see that he can drive in and do those little power hops and pull up, little jumpers. And towards the end of Matthews' career with us, he was, going down into the post and doing those little fadeaways and, posting up a little bit more. To me, I think that could be what we could have with Little, is he could be like a Wesley Matthews type player for us. Not, not now, but like how Wesley Matthews was when we had him. And I hope so, because I loved Wesley Matthews. At one point, he was my favorite Blazer. So,
yeah, Wesley Matthews is great. He's like the type of player I love too. Like high energy. Like the fans always love high energy guys who play D and they hustle a lot. And we know that Nasir is all about hustle. Really quickly, I was listening to an interview or like a podcast with Nasir Little. He was on Chris Haynes' podcast, and he said that what he values like the most in his own game is his hustle. Like he's like, okay, sometimes I know my shot won't drop. If I'm watching the game back or even just thinking about it, and I notice that, oh, like this time I didn't fight for the rebound as hard, that's when I'll be disappointed and I'll think I'll have a bad game. So like it's just little things like that that make fans love him, and like we see that he's such a high energy player. So, but the thing is, I think he's pretty close to Wesley Matthews right now. Maybe like in a year, maybe two, I think he'll be at that level, and I think his ceiling will be even higher than that.
I sure hope so, because I thought, when we had Batum and Matthews and Aldridge, I thought that right there was such a great starting five with Lillard. And we just needed to kind of improve on our bench a little bit. And
If West doesn't
at the
get,
time we had CJ. Yeah, if West doesn't
yeah,
get hurt, tears his Achilles,
who knows
that
what
whole
happens.
playoffs, that would have been a different story. That was a gut wrench for me, and unfortunately, that was the last time we saw all of them. So, let's talk just real quick about our newest rookie. We got, geez, they're just going crazy. We got Greg Brown. obviously we don't know much about him, and I'm still surprised with all the COVID issues that we had, and we still haven't really seen him. So there must be something going on that the coaches see that we don't see. But to me, Greg Brown is definitely I don't as of right now. To me, he's just a role player that comes in, gives you high energy for 5-6 minutes. Do I think he can do more? I do. I think he's so athletic and he's long and he's I think he's a 6'11", 6'10", so he can definitely grow and mature a little bit and be even more of an impact player. But as of right now, we don't have enough to know what his ceiling or floor could be. So to me, right now, his floor is just a high energy role player that comes in for 6-7 minutes and maybe you get some crazy highlight dunk or just one big defensive stop or block or something. But to me, that's about all I can see for him. Oh my goodness, Simons just made the craziest layup right before halftime. I don't know if you're watching this, Fawad, but
I was
goodness.
before we started the podcast, and then I turned it off. Probably shouldn't have done that.
Dedication. Yeah, Simon, we're down by 5 with 10 seconds left, but Simons just made a crazy and one layup. That was weird. What about you for Greg Brown?
Like you said, we haven't seen a lot from him, like in the game, so it makes it hard to judge. But I think, like you said, the coaches probably see that he's really raw and he probably can't contribute right now. And it does surprise me that with all the COVID issues, he didn't play. But I think if we were healthy, I think there's no chance that he would have earned any actual minutes. I think he's way too young and too raw right now. As for his ceiling, I think it's still too hard to say because we've seen so little of him. But even if he turns out to be um, a reliable role player for any team, I think that's a win with like the 46th pick or something like that. I think
Yeah, for sure. Anything in the second round like that can stick around.
If he has like a semi-long career and he's able to be a rotation player for a playoff team, that's like a huge win.
Mm-hmm.
And Simons and Nas, those were late first round picks too. So if they're anywhere even like remotely close to an all-star, I think that's a huge hit.
Yeah. And that's going to bring us to our last person. I just wanted to quickly bring him up because he's been playing and I've actually kind of enjoyed watching him play and I like what I've seen. How do you feel? What do you think the ceiling? It's kind of the same situation with Brown, the floor or the ceiling with Watford. What do you think when you watch him?
I've actually really liked what I've seen, but I think, like I said with Greg Brown, he's really raw, and his best case scenario is probably a role player for, hopefully like a good team. That's like I think his absolute ceiling, but I think he's further along than I expected him to be because he's a
For
2A,
sure.
I believe, right? Yeah.
Yep.
So yeah, those guys are usually not very playable in that season, even though I think some of them do have progressed really well, like in other teams. But yeah, the how he's been playing these last couple of games, I've really liked what I've seen. He has a lot of hustle. He fights for the extra rebounds. The play last game was really crazy that led to the Nas 3.
Yep.
But yeah, he's given us good minutes, which is not expected.
Yeah. Yeah, I won't add anything because that's pretty much essentially what I was going to say. We don't really know too much. What we have seen, I have, those 8-9 minutes that he does get, he brings in high energy and plays good. And that's really all you can ask. Real quick, another question that Lucas had for us. Do we think Dame will be in the All-Star game? Whether he's playing or not, to me, he definitely has the pedigree to be an all-star. This season, though, if we're being unbiased as we can be, I don't think so. I don't think he had a short run where he played back to where we are used to seeing. But other than that, I don't think he's missed a decent amount of games even before this last little stint that he had. But he hasn't really played that well. There's too many good guards that have been playing well that would get in over him from the coaches. So to me, no, I don't think if he was playing right now that he would be in the All-Star game, but I would not be upset if he ever was because he obviously has the pedigree to be there. So what about you?
Yeah, you said it perfectly. We have to be unbiased, and he's not only has he missed a lot of games, he's averaging 24, an inefficient 24. And with all the other guards in the West, I think he has not earned it this season. I think Ja will probably take his place.
And deservedly so. He's played really well.
Maybe Shea Gilgeous-Alexander will get an All-Star. Maybe not. Or the other young guards in the West that might get like a first-time All-Star.
Donovan Mitchell.
Yeah, but he was there last year too. Yeah.
Oh, were you saying first time?
Like who would take like Dame's spot from last year's roster to now? It would probably be.
I mean, Ja. I think there's a lot of players. Yeah, I think Ja was. They were considering him for last year, so I mean, this year opens up a spot for him. I think, and he has played really well
and
this
they're
year.
Like a higher seed now too.
Yeah. So unfortunately, I do not think we'll be seeing Dame whether he does come back or not. I don't think we'll see him in the All-Star game. And honestly, I think it's probably better to rest. And let's kind of skip what we're kind of going out of order of our list of things we want to talk about. But tanking, I think it's time to just. I hate saying this because we've had so many years in a row of success, but I think the best thing for this team, and we've talked about it before. Every day I grow more and more fond of the idea of just getting the surgery for Dame, letting them sit out, rest, and essentially tanking and restarting, getting that draft pick back, making, either a pick with it or trading it, picking some player for somebody and trading that player. I mean, to me, it's time to embrace the tank. Not that this team's couldn't win. I think they could, but I think the right option is to tank, get a pick, get some players, make some trades, and see what we can do the next year and the year after that.
Yeah, it feels like even the team is starting. So I think he's missing at least the next 8 games now. I saw it today. So I wouldn't be surprised if in a week or two we heard that he'll be out for at least a couple months, if not the whole season.
But at the same time, I wouldn't be surprised if he's like, no, I'm gonna play, because that's just the type of player
Even if he
is.
does play, though, I think he'll miss like at least a month and try to heal up properly.
Yeah, I mean, here's what I'm gonna say. Breaking news that's not so breaking. I don't think we see Lillard. I think they're gonna end up doing what's right and letting him heal and get the surgery. So my prediction is we saw the last of Dame this year and he won't be back. But at the same time, we all know how Lillard is, and we know he doesn't want to do that. So if he had the choice of playing or not, we know he would pick to play. So
I might say something that could be really controversial, but
go for it.
You said it's the last of Dame this season. Do you think it's the last we've seen of Dame as a Blazer?
I think if Dame has any say in it, no. I think if the organization decides, you know what, it's time to blow everything up and start all over, then it could be. Do I think they'll do that? No. You don't get a top player like Lillard often, and he's still a very, very good player. And I think Dame, like we've said before, he's never said anything that makes me not believe his word. And he has said he is in it. He's in it no matter what. He said he wants to win here. And, if he said, I want to always be competing, if competing is okay to not do it this year, to rest up and get your surgery that you need so you can compete in future years, and he's okay with that, I don't think him personally will want to leave. Now, maybe if he does rest up, get the surgery, and the front office doesn't make moves that he feels is to make them competitive, then maybe that's when he's like, okay, you know what? Maybe this isn't where I need to be anymore. But I think right now he would be okay with sitting out and coming back. But what the hell do I know? I don't know nothing.
I believe Dame that he wants to stay, and he even through a bad year, I think he would stay. But like you said, if the team wants to move on, I don't think they would do it without Dame's permission. If Dame wants to stay, I think they would stay and build around him. It might be like a Westbrook type thing where they mutually agree it's probably better for like both parties if they parted ways. And also I could just see Dame maybe changing his mind if like some opportunity comes up. I don't know.
Well, I agree. Let's pin this
Yeah.
one for the next podcast because I do want to talk about that because that is truly an option that the Blazers could decide we're gonna blow it up. So I think I want to spend a decent amount of time talking about that. So let's save that one. Let's
Alright,
not go
sure.
too in depth on it. Let's save that one for the next one because I like that idea. Because that is a possibility. So are you kind of in the agreement that we should just tank this season and go for it?
And I can't believe I'm saying it because I'm usually like really anti-tank, but at this point, I think there's no other option. Just let us watch the Florida boys for the rest of the season. If we win games, I mean, I guess that's good. It's good for our future. But if we lose, we get a better pick. We come back stronger next year, and then we see what happens.
Yeah. I agree. So to tie into this tanking thing, CJ's injury, it came out that what Catherine suggested and what we had talked about last podcast, he is waiting for his child to be born before he comes back. So that's been confirmed, and it's crazy that no one really thought about that. Like I didn't hear anybody even mention that until I heard Catherine mention that, and it made so much sense. And then he comes out and confirms it. Do you have anything you want to add on the CJ injury?
No, I think that's just it. He should be back soon, and yeah, he's just waiting for his baby to be born. Baby to be born.
And yeah, and don't blame him at all. I
I
think
don't think
that's
anyone is.
100% the right idea. Yeah. One last thing we wanted to talk about was pretty exciting because we don't see it too often. We had a little bit of a scuffle in the Miami Heat game. We talked about it a little bit in the Twitter Spaces today. I joined extremely late, so I only caught the tail end of it. But I did get to hear about this. So for those of you who didn't see it or didn't hear it, I mean, I'm assuming if you're a Blazer fan, you probably know about this. But Nurkic and Tyler Hero got into a little bit of a fight towards the end of the fourth quarter. Nurkic set a. Did you watch this game, Fuad? Okay, so Nurkic set a perfectly legal screen. No issue with his screen at all. If it was, the other way around and that was Lillard getting blasted or anybody, that screen was perfect. Nurkic did kind of look down at him for a second, but that's not, for what happened, that doesn't, result in that. Nurkic sets the screen, Hero gets blasted and falls to the ground. I don't know, no one really commented on this, but Hero tried to trip Nurkic as he's running away. And not many people that I've seen have brought that up, but he tried to trip Nurkic. Nurkic rolls to the paint, and then Hero comes in from behind and just pretty much pulls a Jokic and blasts Nurkic in the back, which truly didn't move him very much, size difference. And then Nurkic turns around so quick and just mushes him in the face with his hand. I mean, it looked like he was trying to punch him, but he had an open hand. What was your reaction when you saw that whole thing go down?
I didn't notice the like Hero falling down like in real time when it happened. So then I was like, whoa, like what's Nurk doing? That came out of nowhere. Then on the replay, like it's 100% clear that it was only Hero at fault. Nurk just set a good, clean, hard screen, and Hero just got mad for some reason. And I think even most Heat fans that I saw on Reddit were like pretty much in agreement that Hero was pretty much the only one at fault there. I was surprised that he didn't get like a 1-game suspension, or
I actually was too.
I thought like if it was only gonna be a fine, then I thought Nurk wouldn't get a fine or maybe like something smaller. So it's kind of weird that they got the same punishment, but I'm not gonna be too nitpicky over that. Yeah, like it was on. I forgot who the big was on the Heat at the time, but it was on him to tell Hero about the screen to call it out.
Yeah.
So if he's gonna be mad at someone, he should be mad at him.
Imagine him just blasting his own teammates.
But yeah, Nurk pretty much didn't do anything for once in an altercation. He was he was not the one instigating it. And And
yeah, it was
he did
weird.
look down at him when he fell, but I don't think he said anything. So like again, I don't think there was anything that pissed Hero off. It was just the screen.
Yeah, I think it was him getting blasted by the screen, Nurkic looking down at him, and him probably being embarrassed by what just happened, and then he retaliates, and it was. I mean, I get why Nurkic got fined. To me, what makes sense, and this is being totally unbiased, him Hero coming and pushing him from behind is much more dangerous than Nurkic doing his little open hand mush to the face thing. To me, I do think both of them should have been ejected, which they were. I have no issue with both of them being fined, but to me, not suspending Hero at least one game when you suspended Jokic, and I get it, Jokic is a big dude and took out Morris, but it's essentially the same thing. It shouldn't matter size. It's the same exact thing. You're running into somebody. He's pushing Nurkic. I mean, it could have. Do I think it could have been bad? No, not really, because I don't think Hero could push hard enough to make Nurkic go, flying. But it could have been bad.
Yeah, I think size should.
To me, he should have been suspended at least once.
I don't hate that size plays like a small factor because, like you said, like Hero was not gonna do anything to Nurk, but pushing someone in the back, I think it should definitely have been a suspension. Like look at, like you said, there's a size difference, but look at what happened to Marcus or Markeith. I think it was Markeith Morris. He's missed like 30 games now or something. So that's a dangerous act, and it probably should have gotten him a 1-game suspension.
And did Jokic only get
he did only
one game?
Get 1 game.
So I mean,
I thought Jokic was gonna get 2.
Still, like you said, size does play a role in it, and I do get it. But to me, that type of dirty play, that should always have a 1-game suspension. I mean, if you're pushing somebody in the back when they're not looking and they're running, and you're pushing them, that's an issue. And what's funny is, and I wanted to talk about this with you. After that, Reddit went crazy with the videos of Tyler Hero boxing.
Yeah,
I don't know if you saw that, but whoo, that was embarrassing. I've recently started boxing, and I don't have any kind of trainers or anything, and I look 10,000 times better than the video that I watched. But it led me to think when Jokic ran into Morris, and then we had the whole Morris Twitter beef with his brothers, right? Tell me, who would you rather have to deal with? Would you rather deal with the Jokic brothers or big 7-foot Nurkic dad taking out 11 people in the crime fighting sprees and deal with him instead? Because I think I'd take the Jokic brothers over someone who's beat up 11 people.
If there's like 20 brothers, I'll take them over Nurkic's dad.
I mean, I've seen a couple videos of him just sitting in the crowd, and that dude is
built
huge. So I believe that story 100% that he took on 11 people. Yeah, it was Heroes of. He's a smaller guy. That he's got some balls on him to do that, because that could have been bad for him.
Yeah, he got lucky with just pretty much slap to a push to the face.
Yeah, and real time, I really did think Nurkic punched him at first. I was like, oh, Nurkic is going in on this one. But then that replay, you could see it was more of like an open hand slap.
Yeah, I thought it was a punch, and I was like, oh, but Nurk suspended for 2 games. Like that, I was like instantly. But then, yeah, it was clearly not a punch. Then so I didn't expect a suspension after that.
And that's the kind of fire that I like to see from him. Obviously, I don't think it should take him getting pushed in the back to be that fired up. But like, if he plays like angry Nurk when we've seen him, that's the best Nurk we get. When he's angry, when he was going up against Jokic, the first year or two that we had him, and he was, so pumped up to go up against his old team. That's what we need from him.
Angry Nurk is great. Frustrated Nurk sucks. There's a fine line between them.
Yeah. There is a very. We want the Bosnian Beast back, his Nurk fever back, but you're 100% right. Frustrated Nurk is it can go from angry Nurk to frustrated very quickly, and then it's bad for us. Yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say before we wrap up?
Nope. I think I'm good for today.
Okay.
Deadline is
with that being said, then
4 weeks away, I think, though.
Yeah, it's Fawad pointed out to me that the trade deadline has moved to before the All-Star game, where it used to be after. I did not realize that, but it does make sense. So the trade deadline, like you said, is getting close.
Mm-hmm.
Other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Lucas, once again, shout out to you for the questions, and anybody else that has questions, Twitter, Discord, hell, we got an email address. Send it to the email. It doesn't matter to us. We'll get your questions in. Telegrams, faxes, whatever you need. Yep, mail it. We got it. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. I feel like there was something I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember. So. Yes. We're going to talk about the Dame. We're going to have some trade stuff. Hopefully Mike's there to join so we can figure out how we can get Melo back on our team, because I'm sure he can come up with something. But other than that, I hope you guys have a good night. And as always, Rip City, baby.